Hi, my name is Yevheniia Opanasenko. I am B2C QA team lead in Virex. My responsibilities include testing process planning, data preparation and automation, feature delivery, testing products from scratch to full launch. Also, I am leading the testing process of a full team and ensuring the ability to parallel different testing functionality. Today, I wanted to talk about testing processes in Virex and how we work quickly in parallel on various functionality, non-blocking the other teams. Let's talk about Virex. Virex is a British fintech company licensed by a financial regulator FCA. The company was one of the first to create a payment system that allows using digital and traditional currencies in one app, with the possibility to open multi-currency accounts and make transfers and exchanges. For now, more than 4.5 million users in 130 countries worldwide are using Virex MasterCard and Visa cards. Beside Virex app, at the end of 2021, the company presented a decentralized crypto wallet, Virex Wallet for DeFi app and NFTs. The company's offices are based in London, Dublin, Singapore, Dallas, and Atlanta, with the R&D centers in Ukraine and Poland. Let's talk about testing processes inside QA teams. Testing is one of the main activities in product development, and test planning approaches can be different. Since Virex is a fintech company, testing has a critical role in development. Before diving into Virex testing processes, we have to discuss product architecture. So globally, Virex products are separated into front-end and back-end parts, with the front-end team working on web version and mobile applications, and back-end on the server side. As I'm working on the backend side, let's talk about the details of server architecture. Backend has microservice architecture. It allows us to divide functionality granularly and attach it to various services. Every service is responsible for a part of functionality that can interact with other services and clients directly. Services accountable for some functionality within the feature are grouped and attached to development team, which we call domain. So let's see the domain structure. The domain is a complete team engaged in developing and delivering features on production within the area of responsibility and changes in services owned by a specific team. Each domain includes dev team, analyst, project coordinator, and QA team. The backend has more than 300 microservices. That's why every team is responsible for a large part of product functionality. But if we speak about specific feature accessible to clients, their development and support can be provided by one or a couple of domains. The backend QA team is also divided into domains based on functionality, where it's one team lead responsible for testing on a specific domain. This team can contain from 1 to 3 engineers, depending on the number of services or their complexity. As I said before, single functionality can be developed on different domains because development teams closely interact with each other in the same way as QA teams do. So, after all, it is impossible to imagine feature testing without team interaction. Let's see how we work inside QA teams. So, inside the domain, we are working on small tasks, which describe per service functionality and integration details with other structures, if there are any. So this approach allows us to see low-level details and pay attention to technical implementation to form more clear understanding and test more efficiently. On the other side, testing integration details between domains are mandatory and also allows us to consider product overview and see a lot of issues much earlier. The testing process inside the domain team can proceed at the same time with the other domains or indirectly. This depends on scope of work. If there is a new feature that requires changes on different domains, or there are some technical changes in one of the services. This process starts with test estimation, where we estimate tasks included in the release, decide if smoke or regression testing is required, and prepare estimation. After this, feature can be inserted to the pipeline of releases. Usually, an estimate doesn't take a lot of time and can be done by getting familiar with the task before development process. Of course, after realization, estimate can change. After that, QA team starts to analyze requirements and prepare a test plan. For this, we use some specification or information included in tasks. Test plan is an excellent addition to the main tasks, which describes the functionality and helps to reveal some corner cases and bugs. Developed functionality is being delivered to the environment of the responsible team or any other but previously approved with owners. Because there are situations where one domain needs changes from another to start development or start testing, whatever. Having a lot of teams, we have a lot of environments too. So each team attached to one or two environments for development and testing purposes. So before providing functionality to test, development team prepares the background. And after all required manipulations, such as deploy services, running migrations, etc., pass it to the QA team. A single environment can often be used to develop and test a few different features that do not block each other. In these conditions, QA team members can work in parallel on some parts, making the test process faster. In current development conditions, with fast product evolution, the microservice architecture gives us wide possibilities to speed up development without quality loss. Because added changes to services are independent and almost don't affect the main functionality. They can be quickly realized and delivered on production without any dependencies and consequences. It does not require even regression testing. With this approach, we forgot about complete regression. Usually, changes in existing functionality don't have a huge impact on product. Often these changes require just smoke testing, and is very rare when smoke testing is required on two or more domains. So QA domain team knowledge is limited by service subject area, but the most exciting part starts when integration testing begins through domains. So let's see how we work inside one domain QA team and between different domains. Since Firex has a lot of functionality, these features can be developed and supported by one domain and several at the same time. There is even functionality on which all other domain depends, such as Know Your Customer Flow, QUC. I think many of you have heard about it, and depending on whether the user completed this flow or not, the feature may be available or prohibited to use. There is a big difference between a feature developed by a single domain and another with multiple domains involved. There are various tasks, and we have learned to work with all of them. So the functionality developed within single domain services usually has no dependencies. It does need to be deployed to other environments except for the one where the testing takes place first. It does also not need to agree details with other teams such as dev and QA, or wait for actions from other domains to start or continue development and testing. Also crucial is that knowledge about specific functionality is saved in one domain team and not divided into several groups. In other case, more than one person will have to go through this working mechanism to collect it. In my opinion, delivering features to production is much easier and faster with this approach. On the other hand, functionality that overlaps in different domains makes testing more complex and voluminous. Preparing a test plan forces you to think not only about test cases for testing the functionality of your own domain services, but also to search for dependencies on the other services and the other domains, and search for mechanisms of influence services on the domains. So additional dependencies appear between services within the same domain and can appear with services of different domains. In this case, QA team should expand its expertise in understanding the dependencies between services and the functionality itself, and not only within one domain. With this approach, problems in communication between domains at all levels start to appear, from the development to the testing team. The issue of testing integration of various parts as a full feature becomes critical. But usually, all QA teams works indirectly, and changes within the same functionality may not be tested at the same time. So often, functionality has dependencies from one domain to another. In this case, changes within one domain can be tested and already brought to production before another team takes these changes into action. This approach provides mobility and the possibility of parallel work on different functionality and prevents one team from becoming a bottleneck in development. Since different scopes of work can be implemented on different domains, some of them can release their part of changes earlier than others, and free up some time for developing and testing other tasks, or free up some time for some technical tasks which need to be done. However, this is a functionality that cannot be released iteratively on different domains. In this case, the best approach to testing will be to perform it simultaneously on several domains, which will reduce the time for testing in general. Such complex releases take place in a given order based on dependencies between services. And if we talk about full-fledged features that will become available to the user in application, do not forget to test clients. I mean mobile applications and web version, if you have any. Mostly, functionality testing on the backend begins at the same time as testing on the client, or maybe earlier. So in that case, backend team has time to get familiar with the feature and help to answer the questions from client's team. And of course, except for design tasks that do not require changes on the backend. But even in testing with clients, some difficulties and problems must be solved. So let's see how we solve these problems. Let's talk about backend and front-end team structure at least. The client QA team works simultaneously with all features on all clients when a separate unit is responsible for a specific functionality on the backend. Since each domain has expertise only within the framework of its responsibility, client testers interact simultaneously with many teams. So in this case, backend team can more efficiently and effectively help the client team during testing process and focus only on their own domain tasks. Let's see how the testing process is. To ensure stable work of each feature that we implement for user, it's critical to test the integration of the final result from server side with clients. No matter how detailed the tasks and specification are described, there still will be cases when functionality is integrated incorrectly, or it is not used as described from the backend side. Therefore, our goal is to help clients QA team as much as possible to understand the logic implemented on the backend, help with details, with data for testing, and first of all, it is always the preparation of the environment done by development team. However, teams simultaneously conduct many development processes and ensure their simultaneous operation is carried out through configuration settings, which are not always trivial. Precisely the setting of configuration that the backend teams can do. Firstly, it is give us a better understanding of the implementation details and reduces the time to prepare the environment for developers. Secondly, this knowledge makes possible to react quickly and analyze clients' bug related with configuration. I want to explain in detail our testing process using the example of one of the features we worked on recently. This is more than a technical task. Within it, there were many changes on the backend and a little less on the clients. This is a QC user verification functionality, which was already mentioned. The verification functionality is a primary feature without which the product cannot fully function. Having uncompleted QC flow, the user will not have access to any product component. Since the feature included and transition from one service to use of data from the others, these were technical changes on the backend. In the process of this transition, all users were affected. And this is one of the points that had to be checked, both on clients and the server side. We started with the fact that it was necessary to check new mechanism of work, especially how new services work. This ability was provided by the configuration of feature toggles. It's a dynamic configuration that makes it possible to turn on or turn off the functionality. Developers prepare the environment and to be set up configuration, which is primarily needed for the development and testing client teams, not only QA teams. This was the first testing stage to understand in general whether the new functionality works or not. After that, we started playing with the configuration, turning it on for everyone or for single user, or turning it off at all. This is also a large volume of work because for the integrity of the feature, we need to make sure that changing data source and work on the server side will not affect the work of customers in any way, and that the integration and response to backend changes are made by client's team without any errors. And here, we cannot stand without a detailed interaction between the client and the backend domain, which is responsible for the verification flow. I really emphasize the QC flow because the feature itself is much larger and affects all domains of our product. The verification flow is the main task with which we started to test. But if the new functionality has been tested and works correctly, what to do with old users who also need to be transferred to the new work model? Of course, this is work on the backend team. From our side, we backfilled all user data. Validation of existing users does not finish with checking that all data is backed up correctly. After all, the user must have access to the application's functionality, which is multi-currency cards, exchanges, crypto and bank transfers, saving accounts, and much more. And all this functionality works with user context. That is, with the data that we already started to receive from new services, and this is an additional piece of work that needs to be done. But this is where the most interesting process begins. The parts of the feature are assigned to different teams, and integration testing between domains have to start. So the details of which I will tell later. Uh, we have to assume that there is much more logic on the backend side than on the client surface. So our task is to provide them with necessary data to complete all checks. First is to prepare users in different conditions, to check the client's work in other contexts. We are also interested in client's behavior towards users who are stuck in the middle of verification process and have to complete it. Many details can lead to different consequences from the backend side, although it is the same screen on clients. Also possible to talk about why the client QA team does not prepare a user for themselves. Yes, it can be, but for a QA team from the client side, who is not mandatory to be involved in some technical details of the functionality, it will take a lot of time to figure out how to deal with it. Given the speed of development, spending time on it is not advisable. So this task remains on us. What after the verification check? As I already mentioned, this is a check of the correctness of work in new conditions of all other features for which different domains are responsible. And this is where the communication between the client and the corresponding domain begins. And transfer of question, bugs, or help with a specific feature. Thus, the load of domain QA team is moderate, and there is enough time to perform one's tasks and help with the investigation of problems for clients without immediately passing questions to development team. So we help clients with knowledge transfer sessions, with manual actions automations, and with solving issues and helping them with that. So what is knowledge transfer sessions? Testing process for our product is rather complex and voluminous, including many different details. First of all, to form a vision and understanding of functionality and innovation in all teams, we use knowledge transfer sessions. Knowledge transfer sessions are a process of knowledge sharing with the team using a demonstration of new functionality and changes in existing one, covering the discussion of implementation details and possible problems in testing. After the knowledge transfer sessions, participants can work on the functionality in parallel while others can keep up with the changes and details of the work. This approach is just one of the mechanisms to provide practical teamwork. At the same time, the team or another part of the team can work on other tasks. This can be separate tasks or some exclusive features. It all depends on what the development team is actively working. And to make our work easier, we try to automate functionality. That takes a lot of time and forces us to perform many repetitive actions. One of these tools was a customized project for automatic user creation and user creation in various conditions. This is exactly for verification flow. This project reduced the amount of manual work in several times. It's quick to use not only for testing verification as a feature, but also for testing all other features and dependencies. Thus, the manual work of creation user is omitted and takes up to a minute. So, but we have much more problems than like automating data preparation and some issues on clients. But how we solve problems between different teams? What is the integration process of testing within QA team that is divided into domains? QA team are divided into teams that work with certain functionality, which makes up the entire product. But when a feature appears as verification that extends to all domains, everyone works on a piece of functionality combined into one significant feature. The combination of all elements into one great product, and the process of testing this product is integration, otherwise it is just pieces of separate functionality. Solving problems and bug investigation is the main value we are doing in our teams. Considering the specifics of the work of the main teams, we usually do not know how to implement that functionality on other domains. Therefore, the issue of testing the integration of these domains becomes critical. For full-fledged testing, it is necessary to understand what data is transmitted by the domain with which we interact and how we use this data, and of course vice versa. Thanks to the details in the framework of such moments of implementation and testing, each of the domains can correctly conduct the test and support the stability of the functionality indirectly, without involving in the verification of QA team from other domains and without their help. Therefore, we have a certain mechanism for working with issues arising during testing. First of all, it is to determine steps with which you can reproduce this or that bug and find out whether everything was done correctly or there are errors in the use of the wrong points of data that led to an incorrect result. If everything is clean, we proceed to the next step, identifying the consequences of such an error and, more precisely, how it affects other functionality, whether there are problems or incorrect behavior. Of course, the details must be described, and it is possible to create bugs or tasks for some related functionality or related services. After analyzing the impact of a given error on the product, the next step is to determine within which service the error occurred or what data led to this error. And lastly, create a bug and transfer it to the appropriate team. It is not always possible to do this because there are bugs in which errors may not be logged, or bugs in the logic of a feature, or non-obvious bugs where it is impossible to find the problem immediately. So, therefore, in such case, it is worth conducting an investigation from your side and passing the error to the development team for further work. It is important to complete the work on your domain as fully as possible and not to transfer unfinished tasks or bugs to another team without context or details. It's not a very good practice. In this way, we cover integration testing, going a little beyond the scope of our own domain's responsibility. And also, do not forget about task and bug details. Try to describe more and give development team more details. So let's talk about fast delivery and communication in teams, how we work between domains and how we perceive good quality and high productivity. The domain approach in product development provides wide opportunities for planning, implementing, and testing various functionality without dependencies at the team level and at the level of other domains. Independence within the team is achieved thanks to microservice architecture, which allows us to make some small changes within one service and deliver them to production without waiting for changes in all other parts that interact with it. Typically, domain team members engage in various tasks in parallel, sharing knowledge and delivering functionality to the production almost simultaneously. So testing at the level of different domains, domain teams require synchronization of work between QA teams. Other domain teams in different combinations of work is in parallel on features. One of the domains often has already released its changes and started working on a new task. In contrast, the other domain has just begun development of the previous feature. The domain model provides flexibility in implementing and delivering different functionality, making it less dependent on the development team. As we can see on the screen, different domains can work simultaneously on the different tasks and have different results. So the first domain just have some feature in development or some part of changes which require changes on their services. The second domain just develop these changes and pass it to QA team, so changes are in testing. And the third domain is already released some changes to production and can work on some other features. So our testing process helps us to speed up development and release feature more efficiently. With domain structure, it's easier to maintain product on the different levels, giving all teams the ability to concentrate on specific functionality. Using these processes, we can deal both with small and big features, providing high productivity and product quality. And the main goal is to try to step out from your domain area and try to help your teammates. Try to expand your knowledge, share your knowledges between domain teams, and help others with testing. So thank you for listening. Have a good day.